It's a very good point in terms of the kinds of people who uh, tend to be on the extreme side who end up dominating the conversations, right? There's a wonderful economist by the name Timo Koran who coined the term preference falsification, and the idea is that we are masking our views due to social pressure because there is a small group of people who will get really upset or um, will generate so much, chaos and controversy. And as a result, we tend to be more quiet and we mask our views and, we stay silent just for the sake of peace. Um, I think that there are different tools for different kinds of engagements. And sometimes people just want to be heard, even the ones who are at least, from our perspective, might seem a little bit extreme, right? And, I love to use, Daryl Davies as an example. He is a jazz musician, African American jazz musician, who has a lot of KKK robes in his closet because he went around the country and talked to people who were really extreme and eventually was able to move them to the non-extreme side. And not every one of us can be Daryl Davis, but I think ultimately what Daryl Davis says is that um, not talking to these people is always a missed opportunity because you never know what you can teach them, what you might learn from those experiences. And regardless of who you are, you do want to be seen.
Yeah,
You mentioned one of my favorite books is by Monica Guzman. I think Monica
yeah,
works for Braver Angels.
yeah, yeah.
It's called I Never Thought of It That Way.
Yep.
And she says you want to get to a part of the conversation where you say, "Oh, I never thought of it that way." It does not mean that you agree with them, but um, you can now connect the dots in the ways that they do. One of the interesting things Monica did, and she talks about this in her book, is that she goes, her county in I think it's Kings County in Seattle went 73% for Hillary Clinton in 2016. And she was shocked by this, right? And so she takes a busload of her friends who are mostly progressives and go to a different part of the country that voted, the opposite way. So she goes to a rural part of Oregon where 73% of them voted for Donald Trump. And just to cut the long story short, at the end of the day, it was an older gentleman who comes to her and says, "Wow, for the very first time, I feel seen." Right. And that was
Yeah.
really a turning
So
moment
powerful.
in the conversation. And I think, we've tried to do this in the Pluralist Labs, and obviously because of the screening process, we tend not to have the kinds of people who might be disruptive. But in my own, conversations with people, whether I'm the most annoying person at the airport because I want to talk to you and have these conversations, and I, I'm really just trying to get as much questions in as possible. I'm trying to be curious about you, and I think when people feel like you're curious about them and you can at least hear them out, I think it does soften them a little bit, and it gives an opportunity for you to contribute and maybe say something that might help them out.
Yeah, I think that's at the core, Ben, of the training that we do within Braver Angels. It was started from rigorous methods coming out of family and marriage counseling. And one of the things we have at Braver Angels over the 9 years is we have a ton of data that because we gather data on all these different workshops. We're having workshops every day across the country, certainly every week, and we can see the impact that it has on depolarization. But we have like 17 or more different type of workshops. I'm still learning of more that we have that I didn't know we have, and they range from individual training of yourself and then working and interacting with others, and it's all about practicing courageous citizenship. And it starts with you taking ownership that I can choose. I have personal agency to act instead of react, and then practicing it. And when we do that, one of my favorite parts of the very simple, practical, simple, not in, I didn't say easy, but simple statement is when you're talking with that person that has a different point of view and you start to feel that anxiety or that anger or that frustration coming up, one of the questions that we encourage people to do is to say, instead of coming back with your gotcha question or your attack or what have you, is to say, tell me more about your life experience that shapes the way you view this. And that single phrase, in most cases, reframes the entire dialogue to where now you can actually connect. And the reason it works and the reason it's so important is we think people choose their opinions. And so like, how could they choose to look at me in this issue this way when in reality, we primarily, outside of our DNA and wiring that come with us as a prepackaged, we experience our opinions. The life experience we have shapes how we view the world. And so if we recognize that, we'll approach people differently instead of thinking they're in a bad place.